The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. There are a few simple truths that, once you really understand them, change everything. They're not complicated. In fact, they're so simple we spend most of our lives running from them. But here's the very first one, the one that opens the door to all the others. Ready? Life is difficult. That's it. 3 words. And I know what you're thinking. That's it? That's the big secret? I already knew that. But do you? Do you really know it in your bones? Or do you spend your days secretly frustrated, quietly complaining to yourself that things should be easier? That your problems are some kind of unique curse, some cosmic mistake visited just upon you? Most of us live that way. We complain about our burdens as if life was supposed to be a walk in the park. But a brilliant psychiatrist named M. Scott Peck came along in 1978 and gave the world a timeless gift. He published a book, The Road Less Traveled, that begins with those 3 simple words. And what he revealed is one of the most profound paradoxes of being human. Once you truly accept that life is difficult, it stops being so difficult. Because once you accept it, you stop fighting reality, you stop waiting for the easy path to appear, and instead you start looking for the right tools. This book wasn't an overnight sensation. It was a quiet sleeper, a word-of-mouth book that grew so powerful it ended up spending more than 10 years on the New York Times bestseller list. It's sold over 7 million copies and has been translated into more than 23 languages, becoming a guide for generations. Why? Because Dr. Peck, a Harvard-educated psychiatrist, dared to do something few others would. He connected psychology with spirituality. He saw no difference between mental growth and spiritual growth. He believed they were one and the same journey. He looked at the deepest struggles of his patients and saw not just disorders to be diagnosed, but a universal human quest for meaning. So here's my promise to you. If you stay with me for this journey, you'll leave with the 4 fundamental tools that Dr. Peck identified, the very tools required to solve life's problems, not some of them, all of them. These tools are simple, but they're not easy. They require courage. They demand that we travel a road most people choose to avoid. But it's the only road that leads to a life of true serenity, fullness, and deep, authentic self-understanding. So where does this journey begin? It begins with problems. Life is a constant series of problems, and that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's the whole point. Problems are the very things that call forth our courage and wisdom. They're the chisel that sculpts us, that forces us to grow mentally and spiritually. The meaning of our life is found in the process of meeting and solving them. But here's the catch. Solving problems is painful. It brings up frustration, sadness, fear, and regret. And our natural human instinct is to avoid pain at all costs. This tendency, this desire to avoid the necessary suffering that comes with solving our problems, is, according to Dr. Peck, the primary basis of all human mental illness. Think about that. Every neurosis, every anxiety, every dysfunction we have is, at its core, a substitute for legitimate suffering. We build elaborate fantasies. We procrastinate, we numb ourselves, we pretend problems don't exist, all to find an easy way out. But the easy way is a trap. The shortcuts we take to avoid pain ultimately cause us far more pain in the long run. So if we can't avoid problems, we must learn to solve them. And to do that, we need a set of tools. Dr. Peck calls this set of tools discipline. And there are 4 fundamental techniques of discipline, 4 ways of constructively suffering through our problems so that we can grow from them. The first tool, delaying gratification. This sounds simple, but it's the foundation of all self-control. Dr. Peck tells a wonderful story about a 30-year-old financial analyst. She was brilliant at her job, but she was a chronic procrastinator, and it was causing her serious trouble. Dr. Peck worked with her for months, digging into her childhood, her marriage, her feelings about authority, all the standard psychoanalytic work, but nothing changed. She still procrastinated. Finally, one day, he decided to ask her a ridiculously simple question. "Do you like cake?" he asked. She did. "Which part do you like better?" he continued. "The cake or the frosting?" "Oh, the frosting," she said enthusiastically. "And how do you eat a piece of cake?" "I eat the frosting first, of course." And there it was. Her entire approach to life, revealed in how she ate a piece of cake. Every day at work, she'd tackle the enjoyable, gratifying parts of her job first, leaving the unpleasant, difficult tasks for the end of the day. So she'd have 1 hour of pleasure, followed by 6 hours of dread and pain. Dr. Peck made a simple suggestion. What if she reversed it? What if she forced herself to get the unpleasant work done in the first hour? Then she'd be free to enjoy the remaining 6 hours, with the difficult part behind her. 1 hour of pain followed by 6 hours of pleasure. She tried it, and because she was a person of strong will, it worked. Her procrastination vanished. Delaying gratification is simply the process of scheduling the pain and pleasure of life in a way that enhances the pleasure, by dealing with the pain first and getting it over with. It's the only decent way to live. It's the student who does their homework before watching TV, the adult who saves for retirement before buying luxuries. But where does this ability come from? Why do some of us learn it while others live by the motto, play now, pay later? Dr. Peck says it comes down to one thing, the quality of our parenting, which is really just another word for the quality of the love we received. Children learn this discipline in 2 ways. First, by having self-disciplined role models. If a child sees parents who live with restraint, dignity, and a capacity to order their own lives, they'll internalize that as the way to live. But more importantly, it comes from feeling truly valued. When parents devote real, quality time to their children, listening, correcting, guiding, and just being with them, they send a powerful message. You are valuable. When a child feels valuable, they develop a cornerstone of mental health, self-worth. And when you believe you're valuable, you take care of yourself. You believe your time is valuable, so you use it well. You discipline yourself because you believe you're worth the effort. The second tool, acceptance of responsibility. This is one of those truths that seems ridiculously obvious, yet it eludes so many of us. We cannot solve a problem unless we first accept that it's our problem. We can't solve it by saying, "It's not my fault," or by hoping someone else will fix it for us. The moment of power comes only when we say, "This is my problem, and it's up to me to solve it." But so many of us spend our lives trying to avoid this. Dr. Peck tells the story of an army sergeant in Okinawa who was in serious trouble for his drinking. When Dr. Peck met with him, the sergeant insisted that his drinking wasn't his problem. "There's nothing else to do in the evenings in Okinawa except drink," he said. Dr. Peck offered a dozen alternatives: reading, too noisy in the barracks; the library, too far away; fishing, there's no night fishing. When Peck pointed out that there was, in fact, night fishing, the sergeant just changed his story. "Well, I really don't like to fish." The sergeant was determined to see his problem as Okinawa's fault, not his own. By refusing to accept responsibility, he made it impossible to solve his problem, and he was eventually kicked out of the army. This tendency to assign blame is at the heart of what Dr. Peck calls a character disorder. People with character disorders see the world as the source of their problems. When they're in conflict, they automatically assume the world is at fault. The opposite of this is a neurosis. Neurotics assume too much responsibility. When they're in conflict, they automatically assume they're at fault. The truth is, most of us are a little of both. In some areas of our lives, we avoid responsibility, and in others, we take on blame that isn't ours. The great challenge of life is to constantly figure out what we are and aren't responsible for. This was a lesson Dr. Peck had to learn himself. As a young psychiatry resident, he found himself working much longer hours than his colleagues and felt deeply resentful. He went to his supervisor, Mac Badgley, and explained the situation, hoping Mac would offer a solution, maybe exempt him from taking new patients for a while. Mac listened patiently, and when Peck was finished, he said, "Well, I can see that you do have a problem." Peck was relieved. "Thank you," he said. "What do you think should be done about it?" Mac just looked at him and repeated, "I told you, Scott, you do have a problem." After a few more rounds of this, with Peck getting more and more furious, Mac finally said, "Listen closely. I agree with you. You do have a problem. Specifically, you have a problem with time. Your time. Not my time. It's not my problem. It's your problem with your time. That's all I'm going to say about it." Peck stormed out, furious. For 3 months, he hated Mac Badgley. But then, slowly, he realized Mac was right. His time was his responsibility. If he chose to work harder than others, the consequences of that choice, the long hours, the exhaustion, the resentment, were also his. He was free to choose differently. Once he accepted that, his resentment vanished. Whenever we try to give our responsibility to someone else, to our boss, to society, to fate, we're also giving away our power. We're giving away our freedom. And this is what the philosopher Erich Fromm called the escape from freedom. We try to avoid the pain of responsibility, but in doing so we become victims, powerless to change our own lives. The third tool, dedication to the truth. This is about seeing the world as clearly as possible. Dr. Peck uses a powerful metaphor. Our view of reality is like a map with which we navigate the terrain of life. If the map is accurate, we know where we are and how to get where we want to go. If the map is false, we'll be lost. The problem is, we aren't born with maps. We have to make them ourselves, and that requires effort. But an even bigger problem is that the world is constantly changing, and we're constantly changing. So to keep our maps accurate, we have to be constantly revising them. And that process of revision is painful. It means admitting we were wrong. It means letting go of cherished beliefs. It can be so painful that, more often than not, we choose to ignore new information that contradicts our map. We might even crusade against it, trying to force reality to conform to our outdated view. This active clinging to an outdated map is what psychiatrists call transference. It's when we take a set of perceptions and responses that were appropriate for our childhood environment and inappropriately transfer them to our adult world. Dr. Peck describes a brilliant computer technician who couldn't keep a job. He was constantly getting into disputes with his supervisors, whom he described as liars and cheats. His motto was, "You can't trust a goddamn soul." Why? Because as a child, his parents had let him down again and again. They forgot his birthdays, broke promises, and were never there when he needed them. So he developed a map that said, "I can't trust people." This map actually worked for him as a child. It protected him from constant disappointment. But he carried that same map into adulthood, where it caused him to alienate everyone, his bosses, his teachers, and eventually, his wife. He was so busy defending his old broken map that he couldn't see the new reality, that there were people in the world who could be trusted. To be dedicated to the truth means we must be willing to have our maps challenged. We have to live a life of continuous self-examination. We have to be open to criticism from others, because that's the only way we can be sure our map is valid. It means choosing truth over comfort every single time. Mental health, Peck writes, is an ongoing process of dedication to reality at all costs. The fourth tool, balancing. Discipline itself needs to be disciplined. Life requires extraordinary flexibility. We need to know when to express anger and when to hold it back. We need to know when to take responsibility and when to reject responsibility that isn't ours. We need to be able to live for the future, but also be able to live joyfully in the present. The essence of balancing is the art of giving up. Dr. Peck learned this when he was 9 years old, shortly after he learned to ride a bike. One morning, he was coasting down a steep hill that had a sharp turn at the bottom. He felt the gathering speed as pure ecstasy, and the thought of using his brakes seemed like terrible self-punishment. So he decided he could have it all. He'd keep his speed and make the turn. Seconds later, he was bleeding in the woods, his new bike twisted against a tree. He'd been unwilling to suffer the small pain of giving up his speed in order to maintain his balance. He learned that the loss of balance is always more painful than the giving up required to maintain it. This is a lesson we have to learn over and over again. As we go through life, we have to continually give up parts of ourselves to stay balanced. We have to give up cherished beliefs, old patterns of behavior, and even entire lifestyles. He tells a very personal story about playing chess with his 14-year-old daughter. He'd started the evening with one goal: to build a happier, closer relationship with her. But as they played, his competitive nature took over. His desire to win the game became more important than his desire to connect with his daughter. He pushed her to keep playing even when she was tired and upset, until she finally burst into tears and ran from the room. He felt like that 9-year-old boy again, bleeding in the bushes. He'd lost his balance. He realized that a part of him, his intense need to win at games, which had served him well in life, had to be given up. It had to die so that something more important, his relationship with his daughter, could live. This process of giving up is often accompanied by a feeling of depression. But this kind of depression, Dr. Peck says, is a normal and healthy phenomenon. It's a signal that the old self is dying to make way for the new. It's the pain of growth. So these are the 4 tools: delaying gratification, acceptance of responsibility, dedication to truth, and balancing. They're the techniques of suffering constructively. But a question remains: where do we get the energy for all this difficult, painful work? What is the force that motivates us to use these tools? The answer is love. Understanding love. Dr. Peck is very clear that in talking about love, we're toying with a great mystery. It's too large and deep to ever be fully captured by words. But he offers a definition that's both profound and practical. He defines love as the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. Let's break that down, because every word matters. First, notice the word will. Love is not a feeling. It's an action. It's a choice. The desire to love is not love. Love is, as love does. It's a commitment to act lovingly, whether or not the feeling of love is present. Second, extend oneself. This implies effort. Love is work. It's moving against our own inertia and fear. When we love, we take an extra step. We walk an extra mile. That extension is how we grow. The act of loving is an act of self-evolution. And third, the purpose is always spiritual growth. If an action is not aimed at nurturing growth, either in ourselves or in another, it's not an act of love. To really understand what love is, it's just as important to understand what it's not. And the most powerful misconception we have about love is that falling in love is love. We've all felt it. That ecstatic, dizzying feeling of merging with another person. Dr. Peck explains that this experience is actually a sudden and temporary collapse of our ego boundaries. When we're infants, we don't distinguish between ourselves and the world. We're one with everything. But as we grow, we learn what is me and what is not me. We develop boundaries that define our identity, and behind these boundaries, we're lonely. Falling in love is a temporary escape from that loneliness. For a brief time, our boundaries dissolve, and we feel one with our beloved. It feels like magic. But, as Dr. Peck reminds us, the honeymoon always ends. Sooner or later, reality intrudes. He wants to do one thing, she wants to do another. Individual wills reassert themselves, and the ego boundaries snap back into place. We fall out of love. This isn't a tragedy. In fact, it's the point where real loving can finally begin. Falling in love is not real love for 3 reasons. First, it's not a conscious choice. It's an involuntary experience that can happen to anyone, disciplined or not. Second, it's not an extension of our limits, but a temporary collapse of them. It doesn't make us grow. And third, its purpose is not spiritual growth, but the termination of our own loneliness. Dr. Peck humorously suggests that falling in love is a trick our genes pull on us to hoodwink us into marriage and ensure the survival of the species. Without that temporary illusion of perfect unity, many of us would run in terror from the very real challenges of a lifelong commitment. The second thing love is often confused with is dependency. This is the person who says, "I can't live without you, I love you so much." But this isn't love. It's parasitism. When you require another person for your survival, there's no choice, no freedom in the relationship. It's a matter of necessity. Love is the free exercise of choice. 2 people can only truly love each other when they're quite capable of living without each other, but choose to live with each other. Dependent people are like starving individuals, so busy seeking to be filled that they have no energy left to give. Their goal is to be loved, not to love. And if being loved is your primary goal, Dr. Peck says, you'll fail to achieve it. The only way to be assured of being loved is to be a person worthy of love. So if love isn't a feeling and it isn't dependency, what is it? It's work, specifically the work of attention. The most common and important form of attention is listening. True listening is an act of total concentration. It means setting aside your own thoughts, prejudices, and desires to enter the world of another. It's not waiting for your turn to speak. It's not filtering for what you want to hear. It's the hard work of giving your full, undivided presence to another person. This is the essence of love in action. When we truly listen to our children, our spouses, or our friends, we're communicating to them in the most powerful way possible. You are valuable. You're worth my time and my energy. This is how we nurture their spiritual growth, and in doing so, our own. Love is also courage, because to extend ourselves means to enter unfamiliar territory. It requires us to change, and change is frightening. Love means risking loss. Every time we cathect or invest our energy in something or someone, we risk the pain of losing them. It means risking independence, the terrifying leap from the psychological safety of childhood into the unknown of adulthood. And it means risking commitment, the bedrock of any loving relationship. Finally, love is the risk of confrontation. When we truly love someone, we cannot stand by and watch them destroy themselves. To confront someone is to say, in essence, "You're wrong, and I'm right." This is an act of immense power, and it can only be done lovingly if it comes from a place of genuine humility and deep self-examination. To fail to confront when it's needed is not kindness. It's a failure to love. Grace and spiritual evolution. This whole journey of discipline and love leads us somewhere. It's not a random process. It's a journey of evolution, not physical evolution, but spiritual evolution, the growth of the human spirit. And this is where Dr. Peck takes us into the final, most mysterious part of the journey. He suggests that this upward pull, this force that drives us to grow against our own laziness, is a universal phenomenon. He calls it grace. Grace, he defines, is a powerful force originating outside of human consciousness, which nurtures the spiritual growth of human beings. It's a force that's as real and fundamental as gravity, yet we can't see it or measure it with our current scientific tools. But we can see its effects everywhere. We see it in the miracle of health. Think about it. We're surrounded by trillions of bacteria and viruses. Our bodies are constantly producing potentially cancerous cells, yet most of the time, we're healthy. It's not sickness that's the mystery. It's health. We have an incredible built-in resistance, a force that constantly works to keep us well. That, Dr. Peck says, is grace. We see it in the miracle of the unconscious, through our dreams, through slips of the tongue, through sudden insights that seem to come from nowhere. We receive messages that are almost always helpful, wise, and aimed at our healing and growth. There's a part of us, he says, that's wiser than our conscious mind. That wisdom is grace, and we see it in the miracle of serendipity. Those meaningful coincidences, those moments of pure luck that seem too perfect to be random. The right person showing up at just the right time, finding the exact book you needed at the exact moment you needed it. Carl Jung called this synchronicity. It's grace, gently tapping on the window of our awareness. This force of grace is the same force that drives all of evolution. Evolution is a constant push upward, toward greater complexity, greater organization, greater consciousness. It moves against the powerful opposing force of entropy, the natural tendency of all things to move toward disorder, decay, and chaos. In our spiritual lives, this force of entropy is laziness. It's our natural resistance to the effortful work of growth. It's the part of us that wants to take the easy path, to stay comfortable, to avoid pain. And here, Dr. Peck makes his boldest claim. This force of entropy, this laziness, is original sin. It's not about sex or breaking rules. It's the universal human tendency to avoid the difficult work of becoming fully conscious, fully loving, fully alive. The journey of spiritual growth, then, is the journey of aligning our conscious will with the will of grace. It's the evolution of consciousness itself. Our unconscious, that vast, wise part of ourselves, is our connection to God, to grace. And the whole purpose of our lives is to grow our conscious awareness until it can become a vessel for that divine wisdom. To become, in essence, agents of grace in the world. It's a call to become God's hands, to create love where it didn't exist before. It's a terrifying idea because it places the ultimate responsibility squarely on our shoulders, but it's also the most magnificent destiny we can imagine. And so we find ourselves at the end, back where we began, but with a new understanding. Life is difficult, yes. But it's difficult because the journey of spiritual growth is a climb, not a stroll. It's a constant battle against the downward pull of entropy, of our own laziness. But we're not alone in this struggle. There's a force that's constantly with us, nurturing us, guiding us, pushing us upward. A force that manifests as love, as wisdom, as healing, as serendipity. The road is less traveled for a reason. It's the path of effort, of discipline, of courage. But for those who choose to take it, it's the only path that leads home. When you step back and think about it, it's pretty remarkable that a book written in the late 1970s, before the internet, before the relentless pace of our modern world, could feel more relevant today than ever before. But that's the power of the road less traveled. It doesn't offer trends or quick fixes. It offers timeless truths about the human condition. The most powerful lesson for me, and the one I think matters most right now, is Dr. Peck's insistence that growth is inseparable from suffering. We live in a culture obsessed with avoiding discomfort. We want happiness without effort, success without struggle, and connection without vulnerability. We want the frosting without the cake. But Dr. Peck gently and firmly reminds us that there's no shortcut. The very pain we try so desperately to avoid is the raw material of our growth. Neurosis, he says, is a substitute for legitimate suffering. That one line is a lifetime's worth of wisdom. It asks us to look at our anxieties, our fears, and our bad habits not as defects, but as misguided attempts to dodge unnecessary and healthy pain. This reframes everything. It means that the moments of difficulty in our lives aren't signs that we're broken, but invitations to become whole. The other idea that resonates so deeply is his definition of love, not as a passive feeling that happens to us, but as an active, disciplined choice we make. The will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. This definition is a call to action. It transforms love from a romantic fantasy into a daily practice. It means that love is found in the hard work of listening, in the courage to confront, and in the wisdom to give up parts of ourselves for something greater. It's a love that builds, that lasts, that actually makes us and the people around us better. So how can you start walking this road right now, today? Here are a few simple actions you can take. First, identify just one problem in your life that you've been avoiding. Maybe it's a difficult conversation you need to have, a bad habit you've been ignoring, or a responsibility you've been putting off. Don't try to solve it just yet. Just sit with it and ask yourself, what is the legitimate suffering I'm trying to avoid here? What is the pain that this problem is asking me to face? Simply acknowledging it is the first, most courageous step. Second, practice the work of love through attention. Set aside 10 minutes today, just 10, to truly listen to someone, a friend, a parent, a sibling. Put your phone away. Turn off the TV. Don't plan what you're going to say next. Just give them the gift of your full, undivided presence. Try to understand their world from the inside out. You'll be amazed at what you hear and how it feels to give and receive that kind of attention. And third, challenge your map. Take one belief you hold about the world, maybe something you learned from your family or your culture, and ask yourself, is this still true? Is this map still serving me, or is it keeping me lost? Be willing to see the world with fresh eyes. The Road Less Traveled isn't just a book. It's a companion for a journey that's long and, yes, difficult. But it's a journey toward becoming your own true self. And there's no greater adventure than that. That was a deep dive into The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. We've explored the highlights today, but I'll be honest with you. A summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is found when you walk the territory yourself. The true magic happens in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with you in a way you never expected. This overview is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time and attention. If anything we've talked about today has sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself, your struggles, and your path forward. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, and you're ready to continue exploring the world's most powerful ideas, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing together.